Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ellen Greenwood. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And let's see. Is that on? It's just. Do I need to be closer? All right.
There you go. See if you can get close to it. Go ahead. Hold it while I adjust it.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Good. In case you missed it, my name is Ellen Greenwood. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and it is my pleasure to be the worship associate for our Easter flower communion service this morning. Let's try this in the... We'll give that a try. Let me know if you can't hear. I want to welcome you to our in-person service right here at Westside, and also to our YouTube service. We are very happy to have each one of you, no matter where you are joining us from. Westside is a congregation where you are welcome regardless of how you choose to participate, regardless of what faith tradition you profess or don't profess, as long as you are willing to join with us in an open and non-judgmental search for meaning. And it is our custom here at Westside to celebrate Easter with our flower communion service. If you brought flowers this morning, please bring them up to the table in the center here of the room if you haven't already. If you're joining us from home, I hope that maybe you have a blossom nearby, or maybe something blooming outside your window. Brad, our technical guru, suggested you could put a flower emoji in the chat to share with everybody else online. We have a few announcements this morning. If you are here in person, you've got all of them here in your order of service. Please do pay attention to those and read them. I do want to remind you that we will be having coffee and conversation following the service, so please stay with us for that. If you are joining us online, you should be seeing announcements on your screen. So again, please do pay attention to those, and always know that if you have further questions about anything in the announcements, you can refer to our newsletter for more information. We have a couple of other announcements. Suzanne Molnar is going to say something, I believe, about our canvas.
This thing was just handed to me. I think it's supposed to shoot money.
Do not make it rain.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out for later. Anyway. Technical is not my long suit. I never even considered being an engineer, unlike everybody else my age who went to college. Next week, we have what is officially the Canvas kickoff, although overachieving Ann Harvey is handing out the pledge forms now, and everybody, whether you are here in person or whether you participate online. I don't want to sound groveling about this, but we really need it this year. We need a good canvas. That is what pays for the lights to be on and for us to have a minister and all the various other things we do. So please. Next week is the first, in a sense, we're going to start back with our third Sunday potlucks, but you don't have to bring potluck because Anne is bringing lasagna, salad, lunch, in other words. What we do need is, I'm going to make a dessert. I need maybe 3 other people. If you would let me know if you're willing to bring a dessert next week to cap things off. I think that's all I was supposed to say about this. Oh, well. See, I can't even make the microphone stand work. That's why my degree's in psychology.
Thank you, Suzanne. I guess now we know why the lights in the sanctuary aren't on this morning. No? I think it was for atmosphere. And Morgan has a few words to say about the reproductive justice surveys.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. If we haven't met yet, I'm Morgan Ringelspaw. I use they, them pronouns. I usually stand up here and talk a lot about reproductive justice or social justice in some way. And we're talking about that some more. We do have the second round of surveys that are ready. I'm actually putting them together in my little seat over there. So please make sure you get these. Fill them out, give them back to us. For those of us that are online or prefer doing an online form, we do have an online version available. This is really so we get your input. What are you as a congregation okay with us doing? The Board of Trustees does have the final decision on any actions we may or may not take, but this is what informs that decision. So please, for the love of everything, fill out a survey.
Do we need to fill this out and get it back today?
No, you can take it home. I do not need it back today, but we do need it back as soon as possible so we can kind of look through it, consolidate, figure out the averages, do some fun math, things like that, so we can present it. Did we have a date, Carol? Do we remember? Before the congregational meeting.
For sure, I think we need it by like the end of the month,
May
May 1st-ish.
1st-ish. So we'll say May 1st-ish. Make sure you get it back to us, okay? Thanks, everyone.
Is there another announcement that anyone needs to make? Very good. At this time, we will begin our service with gathering music from the choir, and we will be singing "Now the Daffodils Arrive." Anyway, the daffodils will arrive.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the microphone. We're just going to do a little juggling this morning. It is lovely to see you all. I am Reverend Carol Bodeau. If I haven't met you yet, I'm so happy to have you here. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am privileged to serve here as minister. So each week, most weeks, we start our service by inviting our singing bowl to sound. And this is kind of the way that we shift gears. This is shifting gears from like, things are happening, we got to get our surveys filled in, we got to do stuff, we got stuff going on, right? This is how we sort of shift our frame to being more centered and to being really present for a time that allows us to go deeper than maybe we do during the rest of the week. Our lives are busy. Spring and summer will make them busier. Right? So this is an opportunity to think about how we allow ourselves to not just go and do spring, but also how we really allow it to soak into our bodies. So I'm going to invite the bowl to sound in a moment. And what I'm going to invite you to do as I do this is take a few deep breaths. Maybe put both feet solidly on the floor. Sit up a little straighter in your seat, or if you're on the floor, a little bit more solidly on the floor. And take breaths into your body consciously. We are celebrating the revival of the life force on the earth. Let us, while the bowl sounds, really feel the life force in our bodies as breath and blood pulsing and the tissues and the bones that are holding us up. Just allow yourself to feel life in your body as the bowl sounds. And Ellen has chalice lighting words for us.
So I've asked Ariel Reno-Dimick to come and light our chalice this morning. Ariel grew up in our RE here at Westside, and I'm sure that there are many other influences that have made her the wonderful young woman she is today, but I like to think we can claim just a little bit. So it's always good to see her here. Thank you. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be like the first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays and ready to emerge with a new energy to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space. And these words come to us from Jennifer McLaughlin. Our opening song will be number 266, Now the Green Blade Riseth. And we're only singing verses 1 and 3, so please stand and join us as you are willing and able.
So I'm going to hold this up so you all can hear me. So what's interesting about those songs is both of the songs that we've sung this morning are just a little bit melancholy. You know, you kind of come on Easter thinking, no, it's going to be all jubilation, right? But actually, a really important part of the Easter tradition, and this week actually, Easter, Ramadan, and Passover all coincide this year. So we have all three of those holidays from those major traditions all sort of in the same time frame, which is relatively unusual that they all come right together. But these traditions, something that's really important about these holidays is there is a celebration, but there's a celebration coming out of darkness. This is also true if you look at the earth-based traditions. The spring equinox is coming out of darkness. Each year in the springtime, our flower communion is meant to celebrate a joyful celebration of the gifts of this community. It's the time when we celebrate new life in the season. It's in the Christian tradition celebrating the resurrection story of Jesus of Nazareth. But it's also a time when we sort of have, there's a little bit of melancholy in those traditions, particularly in the Christian tradition, because there is darkness that precedes this joy. Okay? And often we forget about that part. So my family in Michigan is Catholic and celebrates the days leading up to Easter as faithfully as this day. Okay? So Holy Week is really important. Holy Week is the part, I don't know if anybody has any inclinations on the Saturday before Easter to watch television, but if you do, you will see a marathon of the Bible story, right? This day is a part of a much bigger story. Even if you look at the earth-based traditions, it's a cycle that includes dark and light moving together. In the Christian tradition, my family in Michigan, Thursday and Friday are just as important as Sunday. Holy Week involves the parts of the story where there's darkness, where there's death, where there's loss, where there's grief. And those are really important. In fact, you couldn't have the resurrection without that part of the story. We wouldn't get spring flowers if we didn't have the part of the year that's winter, where things get to lay fallow and things are happening in the darkness. In most traditions, there is some recognition that the coldness and seeming death of winter is what gives way to new life. There are observances and rituals from around the world and throughout time that recognize this. So I personally, when I think of Easter from my childhood, I think of Good Friday. There's this story. Some of you who are raised maybe in the Christian tradition will remember it. There's this story that's really important about the moment that Jesus' Spirit passes, of the temple curtain ripping and lightning flashing and thunder roaring, right? That stuck with me way more than the Easter morning stuff. That's a powerful thing. That's a powerful energy of transformation. And often we sort of don't think about that. So today's service, we purposefully chose some songs at the beginning that have a little bit more of a melancholy tone to them, because we don't often think about that. So one of the things that we do when we celebrate our flower communion is we celebrate the unique gifts that each person brings to this community. Right? So each of us brings a flower or a few flowers, maybe today we weren't in a place to be able to bring a few flowers or any flowers. Maybe we forgot, maybe we just didn't have the energy. We celebrate the bringing of the gifts. And everyone at the end of this service will have some to take home. But we often don't stop to ask the question, well, why would we need them in the first place? Why would we need to show up to some place where there are shared gifts? Two reasons. Because we all have moments when we need to receive care. We all have times in our lives where we need the support of a community, where we need to be able to go someplace where someone's going to give us a hug or have a willingness to have a conversation about a tough topic. And we all also, as human beings, have a need to offer those gifts, to feel like we matter in the world. So without the need to receive, there would be no point in giving. So we're going to spend a moment right now and do a little reflection. So I'm going to invite you to just take another deep breath. Close your eyes if you feel like it, or look at the flowers. And reflect for a moment about what your need is. What is the darkness that you are currently coming out of or would like to be coming out of? What in your life are you hoping will get birth, will get nourishment, will get fed? Maybe by being here, maybe by spring coming, maybe by a change. What are you hoping for? What do you need? Spend a minute with that. We don't often take time for that because what we often do, actually, what many of us do, I will say this is a little bit of an epidemic, particularly in Unitarian Universalism, because we are fixers and solvers, is we will often put so much attention on taking care of other people's needs that we don't take a minute to stop and ask the question, well, what do I really need right now? So this is an invitation not just to celebrate, but also to acknowledge the winter. Allow it to be with us, because I guarantee you that though things look kind of nice, we're going to have some more storms. We're going to probably have some more stormy weather here in Tennessee in the next few weeks. It's probably not all over, right? These things come in cycles, which is what these traditions remind us of, that there are cycles in our lives and in our communities and in our world where there are times of need and times of surplus, times of being the ones who are receiving and being the ones who are giving. So when we actually practice our actual flower communion, I'm going to invite you to really imagine that as you pick up a flower, what you're actually doing is telling yourself, your unconscious, some higher spirit, depending on what you believe, or just making an acknowledgement to this community that you are willing to receive what it is that you most need in your life right now. Let us, in a few minutes, when we go into our actual flower communion, let us hold in our minds and our hearts not this insular sense that I have to do it all myself, but this sense that I am in exchange and sharing with other people. And then what's really interesting about that is that we can also do that in the bigger world. There is tumult and struggle in the world. We can also hold in our minds and hearts not an insular sense that we just take care of ourselves and each other, but also we magnify that into the bigger world. The beauty and power of this kind of ritual is that it reminds us what can happen when people come together out in the larger world as well. So in a few minutes, we're going to do that. But first, we're going to have our offering, which Ellen is going to introduce for us. And I'm going to invite the choir to get ready, because now that I've made you think about sadness and darkness and what you need, now we're going to start thinking about celebrating the wonderful gift that we actually have the ability to receive what we need.
We support the work of this congregation with our time, with our caring for each other, with our presence here. We also support it with our gifts of money. This quarter, our Share the Plate partner is Worthy Now Prison Ministry Network. The goal of this organization is for all people who are imprisoned to know that they are inherently worthy now of love and justice, and for them to have access to religious freedom. And the choir will sing as we take an offering to support the work of this congregation.
The song we're singing is about celebration. Gaudeamus, 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 Hodie. Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus, Hodie. So that Gaudeamus means celebration. It means joyful celebration. So take a look at our flowers. A single flower is beautiful for sure. A little small group of flowers is wonderful, but an abundance of flowers is something else. I know we do this every year. We tend to be like, oh yeah, they're cool. We did it last year and the year before and whatever, right? But this is a cool ritual. It's an abundance of flowers. How many of you would do this at home on your own table? Right? Probably not, right? We wouldn't do it. An abundance of flowers is something unique to community. It's a proclamation about abundance and exuberant hope. And it's also a proclamation about the willingness to show up and do things together. When this many people bring this many flowers, there's something, I'm going to say, a little bit defiant about it. I know you haven't thought about it that way, but think about it that way for just a minute. That's a little bit extravagant, isn't it? It's a little bit extravagant. And I'm kind of thinking maybe next year I'm going to do it at home. Just 'cause, right? We often don't do this for ourselves. Just as we each bring unique flowers, what's interesting about this is how many of you who've done this before brought the exact same kinds of flowers this year that you brought last year? Some of you might have some at home, right? If they're at home. But how many of us brought completely different flowers? Don't even remember what we brought last year. Don't have a clue. That's a really cool thing. We come with different gifts at different times. We come with different needs at different times. We bring different wisdom at different stages of our life. And even if you brought, I'm going to ask a couple of you who said, yes, I brought the same thing this year as last year. Was it exactly the same thing? Like, couldn't possibly be because those flowers are gone. right? Looks the same. Looks the same, but if we take that metaphor a little further, you're not the same person you were a year ago. You might be offering some of the same kinds of gifts, but every year we are different and we are new. And that is the message of the season, being new with each iteration of a cycle in our world, in our life, and on our earth. So it's wonderful that we come in, right? And we come in different. And we come in with different needs. Now, maybe last year you didn't need anything and things were great and it was all good. And what you needed to do is just show up and enjoy it. And maybe this year you're showing up and you have a different need. Maybe there's something that's different this year. What's wonderful about ritual and about the repeating of these cycles is that we get to change and yet show up in a container that holds us. Now, some of us brought a big branch of flowers. Some of us brought a couple little that we clipped from the yard. Some of us might have pulled something out of the grounds around here. And some of us might need one tiny little flower, and today you might need a whole bunch. One of the wonderful things about this ritual is generally there's more than we actually need. Like regardless of who brought what, there is something about the amplification of the gifts when we bring them together. So what's going to happen is Sandra's going to just play some background music for us, and I'm going to invite you to come forward and, however you feel called, take a flower or two. Almost always there's some left. And then I start cajoling people, take some more, take some more. So look at those flowers for a minute and think about which one you want. And as Sandra plays, we're just simply going to take what you need, and then we're going to have a minute to meditate on that after we're done. This is the cajoling part. There's a lot of flowers left there. Be extravagant with yourselves. We live in a world that wants to tell us there's not enough. We are constantly being sold the message that we are in need, that we are desperate. Keep going. We're constantly being sold the message that we should be more and that there's inadequacy. But there's plenty. There's plenty. Now, maybe there's someone in your life that you want to take a flower to. That's the great thing about this. There's enough to share. Maybe there's someone you want to pick up. There's a lot of flowers left there. It's really okay. And you folks online, we are imagining you here with us, receiving these gifts as well. Take the big flower. Yeah, take the big flower. By gosh, take the big one. Take the big one. Take some more. Absolutely. It is okay if at the end of this ritual, the vases are empty, because you know what's going to happen? Even if we don't put flowers in vases next week, that table is always full. It's always full. If we show up with open hearts and a willingness to share ourselves with others, there's always enough. If I could, I'd say amen right now. We're going to sing hallelujah in a minute, but I want to try something else first. I want you to all be brave with your voices. And I don't know if Morgan, you have your phone available? Log on for me, because we're going to do a little responsive thing here. So I want to be able to hear if people put things in the chat. So this is where you get to use your voice. I'm going to invite you to come up with a word or a phrase for what it is you are receiving today. Just take a minute with that. A word or a phrase for what you're taking away today. Community. Excellent. Shout them out. Gratitude. Warmth. Friendship. Love. Comfort. What was that one? Appreciation. Peace and hope. Light. Joy. I didn't hear that one. What was that? What have I missed? Levity. Yep. What else we got? Harmony. Peace. Abundance. Beauty. Gratitude. I'm sorry, I missed one. Joy. Mm-hmm. Joy from the chat again. We're joyful that the chat people are here and participating. It's awesome. All of these things can be there for us to receive in community. That is the gift of community. That is why we bother getting up on a Sunday morning, maybe not every Sunday morning, but on an occasional Sunday morning. However often it is, that's why we bother to come to a place like this, because we're hoping to receive and to share our gifts. That is an act of radical courage. In a world that wants to tell us that there's not enough, that we're not good enough, or that there's always a problem, and that there's not beauty, and that there's not joy, and that there's not hope. And right now, we're looking at some darkness around us. Darkness is always there. Darkness is always there. And so is beauty, and joy, and hope, and abundance, and peace, and gratitude, and promise. They're always here. And we get the opportunity when we are together to remind ourselves and each other of that each week. So we're going to join in singing the UU version of a traditional Christian Easter song. This is the UU version of the hymn. I don't remember what it's called in the tradition, but our version is "Lo, the Earth Awakes Again." It's number 61, but by gosh, we get to sing our alleluias this morning. So even if you don't think you can sing them very well, even if you don't think you can sing them on key, I invite you to sing them loudly. We're going to sing all the verses, and you are invited to rise and body your spirit if you would like. Join in singing number 61, "Lo, the Earth Awakes Again." Now, if you feel so inclined, you can join hands or just stand near your friends or your completely strangers, new acquaintances. You can wave your flowers in the air if you'd rather. You do not have to hold hands, but you are welcome to do so if you feel so inclined. This is a UU congregation. You can say no to the hand holding if you want to. It's fine. But whether you are holding flowers or hands or just your own presence in this moment, this is what community is for. Look around you and just notice. Maybe there's somebody in the room that you've never met. That's a surprise waiting to happen. Maybe there's someone that you haven't really been grateful for in the last day or week. Maybe there's someone who you're happy to see that you haven't seen in a long time. Even if there's someone in the room who you might have a little bit of a disagreement with, or someone not in the room that you might have a little bit of a disagreement with. Community is the container in which we bring ourselves fully, to be met fully, and shared fully. I invite you to go into this day of celebration and this week of spring, this time of the year, with an open heart, an open mind, and the willingness to bring and receive all the gifts that are abundantly available to us at all times. Go in peace and celebration. And by the way, thank you to the gift bringer who brought the chocolate, because there's chocolate. There's chocolate.